Convergence Emergence presents Christopher Hatton, Scout into the New Paradigm. So today, Christopher, the friend that I call my New Paradigm Scout, he's always 2 years ahead, 3 years ahead, whatever. So we were talking today, and he said he was getting ready to start a knowledge center and become a tutor. And I was thinking, so what will you, and we talked about it, and I was looking up, I've been thinking today about getting rid of profit and going to a near net zero cost economy, and I found this video, so I want to share it with you.
6 foundational concepts, and those foundational concepts start with 2 laws that occur in certain areas of our economy. And the first one's known as Wright's Law. And we'll go over that in detail, but it has to do with economies of scale and reducing marginal costs of products, end products. And Moore's Law. So Wright's Law and Moore's Law. And Moore's Law simply states the number of transistors, integrated circuits were doubling, from a certain point in time. Then it's thought to continue, and it continued, up into the middle of last decade. But even today, we're still getting the computational upgrades, even though Moore's Law has run into its limits. We also want to mention convergence. So convergence is when you combine 2 or more technologies together. And, to be able to do that, we have to look at each individual technology and its history, and then what is the implications of a convergence of these 2 or more technologies. The understanding goes that when you combine 2 or more things together in an efficient and workable way, that you widen the scope of understanding beyond what the individual development of what those 2 technologies can do. So there's lots of that going on. And that truly is the key to unlocking abundance. Another piece is innovation platforms. So, we see in the economics community and finance community, 5 main innovation platforms that are being developed right now. So think about it like this. We have multinomic sequencing, which is genomics, the immune system, microbiome, etc. Robotics. And that, includes arms that move things and humanoid robots that can walk around and do things humans can do. Artificial intelligence, which is important because we're entering into the age of artificial intelligence converging with everything, since now we know that the internet can be more useful with things like ChatGPT and, its predecessors and some of the open source things that have sprung up since then. And we have energy storage, which is huge because the big problem with electricity is you got to use it when it's being produced or else it goes away. It's either grounded or it gets lost as heat in transmission and distribution. Energy storage is a really big piece, and I'm not talking pump storage or temperature differential storage or anything like that. I'm specifically talking batteries, because that's where a majority of this will come. Blockchain technologies. So blockchain is something that produces a way of theoretically replacing paperwork, which is in everything that we do, obviously. It provides 2 things. Theoretical immutability, meaning once it's on there, it cannot be changed. And then auditable. So it means that any kind of paperwork stream that exists now can be audited. That would exist with blockchain too. So the problem with current paperwork streams is they can be manipulated, even if they're audited. So the immutable part is meant to get away from that. And there's lots of different ways to explain blockchain technology, but I think it's one of the most important things that will begin its convergence with everything else here moving forward fairly soon, because there's definitely arguments out there for tokenizing everything and decentralizing most. Then after going over innovation platforms. We're going to talk about the effects of what is zero marginal cost. What does it look like on a graph? What does it actually mean? And how can it benefit people? This is important because, people don't think this way. People mostly think in a scarcity-oriented way. So we'll be able to discuss multiple examples that already exist and have existed for a long time that define this pretty clearly. And in that, we'll go through something called exponential economics, and that completely flips supply and demand on its head. Takes the supply line away and makes everything under the demand curve fair game. So you can dynamic price or you can go approach zero. Finally, we'll talk about true abundance. I'm not just talking about in your mind and energy and spirit and soul. I'm talking about material, physical abundance. And we are well on our way to that now. And I'll try to explain some versions of what that looks like and how it's possible and why we should pay attention to it. And give some current examples of some major companies that have been around for over 100 years that are in their last decade and they don't even realize it. That's going to be the foundational understanding of everything that we talk about on this channel. And it's going to be very important. And we'll bring in some clips of some speakers that have mentioned ways that this is happening now, and people on the leading edge that are developing in their firms and their visions of where they want this to go. And then we'll cap it off with something called the 6 Ds, which is the 6 Ds of exponential technologies. And it's actually been edited since then by an entire congregation to include a 7th D, which is decentralization. But if you can demonetize, democratize, and decentralize, then power and influence doesn't accumulate for few, it accumulates for the whole platform. And we'll definitely have to talk about what a platform is and why these things are so important. Because I like to think that when we talk about platformism, we still think about it through scarcity in the lens of major companies like Facebook and YouTube and stuff. But that's not the future, guys. That's right now. And you need to understand it's going to look nothing like that. If you ever have seen WeChat, it's going to look nothing like that either. I mean, it's going to feel nothing like that because WeChat benefits few. While everybody else gains access to the goods and services and do receive a benefit, but we're talking about having these same type of mechanisms without costs associated with them. I think that'll be good.
Yeah, I think that'll be good. I can't wait. Christopher's discussing getting a website landing page where you can come and you can interact with him and schedule some one-on-one time. And wouldn't it be grand to just have his mind for an hour? So stay tuned and bring a friend.